Kia ora, welcome back to my channel. My name's Renee. I like to read books and then talk about them on the internet. Hi, hello, welcome. Oh, I don't know why I'm sitting on the floor. My body is very sore at the moment. Just spent the morning in the garden doing lots of weeding and tidying, and yeah, my back hurts. So anyway, December wrap up, that's why we're here. Talk about everything I read in December. Feels weird doing a December wrap up, to be honest. It always feels like an odd thing. I don't know, December kind of gets lost in all the Christmas, New Year content, and so it just feels odd to go back and talk about books that happened last year, even though some of these I literally read on the last day of the year, which was not that long ago. Gotta be honest, not all that excited about the books that I read in December. Nothing wow, nothing stood out. I had some good reads. Everything was just kind of okay, and I think that pretty much sums up how 2023 was for me as a whole with my reading, so it doesn't bode well for this video, but I hope you enjoy it nonetheless. First up, Milkman by Anna Burns. This has been on my shelf for ages. This was one of my 23 books for 2023. Yeah, I was very determined to read this book before the end of the year, and I did, and I'm glad that I did. But overall, I wasn't as excited about it as many people on the internet are. And I don't know, it made me feel like I was missing something, even though I don't think I was. If you don't know what this book is about, it is set in Northern Ireland during the Troubles. We have an unnamed teenage narrator who is experiencing typical teenage life. She's on the precipice of being a young adult and is dealing with family. She is falling in love, boyfriend, is struggling with work, all those typical things, with a war happening in the background. The thing I do like about this book is the way that it portrays a typical everyday life and how it can be permeated by this major political, social unrest happening in the background. And I think the way that we see that through the story is the gossipy, paranoid, suspicious way that the story is written. A lot of it is being relayed by the narrator. It's he said, she said, people talking about one another, her constantly being told that she needs to act more normal and to not stand out so as to avoid attention, unwanted attention from authorities, from people from the other side. Nothing is explicitly said out loud in this book when it comes to details about these groups or who these people are that are oppressing this community. But it's this unspoken known. Everyone is aware of what's going on, and so everything is kind of said in whispers or in very general, not specified terms. And so through the writing style and the use of language in this book, you do get the sense that everything is kind of life is happening in a way underground, and what it would feel like to be living through this time as a young person while you're trying to figure out who you are and establish who you are as a person, and not wanting to be like other people, everyone else. Trying to make a conscious effort to be your own person and to not listen to what the crowd is saying or what everyone else is doing. That part of it I liked. I just thought that it was too long. There's so much dialogue in this book, and it felt like it was much longer than the physical pages that it takes up. But it just, I wish it was shorter, and I feel like if it was, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more, but I just became quite bored, and I felt like the ideas and the themes and the messages had been put across, and the rest of it just felt like unnecessary fluff to me, filler if you will. So yeah, I would have liked for it to be shorter, and then I think I maybe would have gone along with it a bit better. Next I read Swing Time by Zadie Smith. This is a novel set in London. The protagonist, an unnamed narrator of the story, opens the story where she's been fired from her job. That's not a spoiler. She is, I guess, remembering her life and trying to figure out what happened to lead her to that point that we find her in. So much of the story is her history from a very young age, growing up on what I think is like council flats with her parents, and this very close relationship that she has, this close friendship that she has with another girl named Tracy, who also lives kind of like on the council flat estate. Both are seen as like very similar. They both have the same kind of complexion. Our narrator, when she very first sees this girl, almost thinks that they could be mistaken for one another. And so there is this immediate kind of comparison, rivalry between the two that is established based on the way that they look, the fact that they're both black and both mixed race. Also the way that they have similar circumstances but different upbringings, they have different parents. Our narrator is in some ways this quite passive character who kind of wants to do well and wants to make her mother proud, but has always kind of taken a back seat to Tracy, who is the much more kind of driven, knows what she wants, is not afraid to say it out loud type. Ultimately, they both end up going down these very different pathways in life. Towards the end of the novel, we kind of see the results of where they've both ended up and I guess who's better off. It deals with a lot of the same themes that Zadie Smith likes to write about in her books. Obviously life in London, class, race. You also have this part of the story when the narrator is older, where she goes to work for this pop star, Madonna-like-esque pop star who travels to Africa to open this girls' school. And so you have this aspect of celebrity and white saviorism happening in the book, and the way that the narrator kind of watches what's happening and how it's happening, and her kind of slow understanding but her passivity to it all. She doesn't ever at any point kind of have her own thoughts and opinions. She is merely just going through the motions of the life that has kind of been dealt to her. I thought this was just okay. It's like not my favourite of Zadie Smith's fictional novels, but I think it definitely deals with those topics in a really interesting way. Again, I felt like it could have done with being a bit shorter. Yeah, I always enjoy reading Zadie Smith's writing. I think she's smart, I think she's clever, and I think she knows how to convey those bigger topics and everyday situations. Yeah, she's able to put those themes across in really smart and clever ways in her fiction, and I'm always really impressed by the scope she manages to have when it comes to her stories. And yeah, it's always kind of like a pleasure to read and to watch it unfold. Next I read A Little Devil in America by Hanif Abdurraqib. This is a collection of essays about black performance and the ways in which moments in history and moments in contemporary culture, specifically related to black performance, have impacted Hanif and his kind of social understanding of the time. He's kind of capturing the zeitgeist in a lot of ways with his newer kind of references, but also mapping history through others, revealing some really interesting information about moments in time that I would never have known about. I found this one a little bit hard to kind of connect with. It felt a little bit at times too personal for me to find a way into some of these essays, and so I enjoyed some more than others. I think the one, not the very opening one, but the second one about dance marathons that happened during the Depression era was really interesting and a piece of history that I didn't really know about. There was also one that referenced a singer in a Rolling Stones song. What was her name? Mary Clayton was a backup singer on a Rolling Stones track. That was really beautiful and powerful, and it made me go and seek out that song and listen to it and understand better some of his kind of references about how haunting that her voice is in that, and how it could only ever be a black woman singing those words because of the lyrics and what it was kind of referencing. Was really interesting. I think the way that he kind of breaks down and analyzes black culture and black performance and these very specific moments was really smart, and you can tell it's coming from someone who loves music and has a deep understanding and appreciation for the massive impact that black performers have, specifically in America. But yeah, it was just a bit of a hard one to kind of navigate at times, and yeah, many of them just didn't connect like I would have liked to. But overall, a really beautiful collection. He's a beautiful writer, he's a poet, so it has this very melodic, sing-songy tone to it. Just didn't quite do it for me in terms of every essay being great, which I know is a hard thing, and that's like a high criticism, but that's how I feel. Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I started this series. I took this with me to Christchurch thinking that I would be able to whiz through it in a few days, but it actually ended up taking me almost a week to read this because I was far busier than I thought I would be at Christmas time. It was good. I'm not going to critique this book in the same way that I would something else. Why? Because I think I've made the mistake of knowing what a book is and setting these massive expectations. Like, the writing is just fine. It's quite repetitive in places. The story itself has many holes in it. I felt like the pacing of this book was really weird, and I was under the impression that a lot of what happened in the second half of the book was going to be dragged out into an entire series, but that's not what happened. Like, they started speeding up, and then things were like, oh, you're gonna wrap this up, right, okay. My experience of this was like, it's just an okay fantasy series. I haven't read a lot of fantasy, so I don't have much to compare it to, but overall, when I think about this book, I think, you know what, I had a good time reading it. It's very readable. It was very easy to approach. I mean, it was very cheesy, and a lot of the steamy scenes kind of made me feel uncomfortable, but that's no surprise because I'm not really like a spicy, steamy reading gal. But I am trying to read things that are just fun and not so serious, and this kind of fit that. I realised that I've not actually talked about what this book is about. For anyone who might not know, this is a series, the first book in a series that is set in a kingdom of fairy people, where fairies exist, but not the fairies that I think we typically think of. They are often, I don't know, described as like being quite handsome and beautiful and charismatic, and they come in many different forms, and some of them are terrifying and things that would make you shudder at the mention of. And so we have this character named Feyre, who is a human. At the beginning of the story, she's hunting and she kills what she thinks is a wolf. It actually turns out that this wolf is a fairy, and she is taken by another fairy to go live in the fairy kingdom as her kind of punishment for killing this wolf that she thought was a wolf but is actually a fairy. And then from there the story kind of happens and unfolds. I don't think it's like important to know a lot of the details about the story or the plot, but that's kind of the setup. I believe the rest of the series is going to involve kind of Feyre's journey, time in this fairy kingdom, and I'm kind of strapped in for the ride. At least I have the other books, you can't see them but because they're just there, but I have the other book ready to go for January. I'm gonna read it. I've been told that the second book is the best. Yeah, it can only get better from here, right? Like, my expectations were pretty low for this book, so they can only go up. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. Sorry for the chaotic description of it. Yeah, I don't think I'm quite ready for how spicy it gets. Some people said like, oh yeah, the second one gets way spicier, and it's like, that's why it's the best, and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to read that. Fair Play by Tove Jansson. This is my book club's December book club, and I got it in just in the nick of time. I finished this on the 31st of December. So there you go. I really wanted to tidy things up at the end of the year and not have anything hanging over me, and we did it. This is just a slim novel. It is about two friends who are living together. They're both artists, they're both creatives, and each chapter is a moment in their lives. They're kind of interesting and intricate and playful and critical. Their relationship sometimes shows like slight moments of like them being in a long bonded relationship, and I guess that's what it is. It's just not sexual. The premise of this I was very excited about. I was like, well, that sounds really great. I can't wait to read it. And then when I got into it, I just found it quite hard to know what was going on. It's kind of told in this very naive, childlike way, which kind of makes sense because Tove Jansson is a children's book writer. She wrote The Moomins, which I don't actually know what that is, but I know that she did that. I know it's some kind of cartoon. Yeah, there was just something kind of about it that I found a little bit hard to take seriously. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but it just felt, yeah, naive, childlike, confusing. Some of the dialogue would kind of jump all over the place. Yeah, it was just a bit, I just didn't really enjoy it because of that, and I'm disappointed. I think there was potential for it to be really good, but it was more. I think the format of the way it was written, there being these like almost like short stories, I feel, between about this friendship in different parts, and the story didn't quite flow, and you were only really given these short chapters to kind of understand, grasp what was going on, and I don't know, maybe it's the translation, that's that. And then the last book that I read in December, I actually listened to on audio. I listened to it fully. It didn't have a physical book at all. And that was Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe. After reading Milkman, I really was interested to know a little bit more, well, an entire history, because I basically don't really have any previous understanding or idea of the Troubles in Ireland. That's what this book is. It's a narrative non-fiction describing the Troubles in Northern Ireland and that conflict. This was really interesting. It's kind of made me want to read more from him because of the way he tells the story. A historical non-fiction, so we're getting a lot of like journalistic information, specific people and times and numbers. He, in the beginning, introduces these characters that are the narrative points that we follow these events through this very long period. I didn't know that the Troubles went on for more than 30 years. Yeah, Patrick Radden Keefe manages to use these different characters from either side to navigate and weave into this journalistic non-fiction historical description of this period. It was wild. I think similar to Milkman, it's kind of crazy how, I guess, embedded this was for people who lived in Northern Ireland during this time. How prolific the conflict was, and how kind of underground it kind of felt. Yeah, it's hard to kind of reflect on this and talk about it, because this one I also finished on New Year's Eve, yeah, the 31st, and yeah, it's a lot to take in. The story that he chooses to tell is one of a family of 10 children and their mother, who is known as one of the disappeared. I don't know why I did that. That's what they called them. People that were just kind of vanished and no longer seen. It follows her children and the way that they kind of end up in the system and what happens to them as they're older, and the struggles that they have with mental health and alcoholism and addiction, and I guess gives you an understanding of what it was like for people who were affected from this firsthand. You're also following members of the IRA and how they were recruited and their stories and their times in prison and their ultimate connection to this family and how they were affected by it as well. It was just some of the most brilliant kind of storytelling for a non-fiction I've ever read. I don't necessarily fully understand how or why the Troubles first started. I think a lot of people can say that it like predates even before that time, but this book is great at humanizing some of these horrific events and showing you the people that it affected and telling their story, and yeah, it was brilliant. It was a nice way to end the year despite the rest of, I mean, it wasn't a nice book obviously, but despite the rest of my reading month, it was like a really comprehensive, great storytelling non-fiction book. That was not as fast as I was hoping, but we're done, we're wrapped up. December is, she's over. We don't have to talk about her again, okay? Okay, now that December's over, what book did you get for Christmas? How about that be the question we asked today? Did anyone get any good books? I got The Shards by Bret Easton Ellis from my brother-in-law. My other brother-in-law, he bought me 2 books that I actually already owned, so I exchanged them. But that was good, like he bought me 2 books that I already owned. Rupert bought me a book called, what's it called? Take What You Need, and I'm very excited about it. I'd never heard of it before, and it sounds like it's going to be great. Kind of like a stepdaughter relationship. I'm very excited to read it. Anyway, what did you get? Have you already read it? Let me know in the comments, please. Okay, have a great day. Love you all. See you next time. Bye.